be seated. Many of us know what it's like to live a life on the run. Hectic schedules, kids in school, sports, dance, music, chaos with family, forgetting I need cloves and not cinnamon while cooking, and having to run to the store, and that list just goes on. We continually measure our life by the check marks that we do on our daily to-do list. A favorite phrase of many, as soon as I get caught up, but we never get caught up. Far too many of us are running away from something, running from a past, trying to escape guilt, regret, running from pain, from disappointment, brokenness of life. We desperately want to leave behind the parts of our life that we just don't like. Then there are those folks who are running towards something. A new job, maybe a new relationship. Maybe it's just a search for answers or for knowledge. What is life? Where am I? What's my purpose? Some folks are chasing life during a midlife crisis. I know something's out there. I just got to keep running to find it. Lastly, there are those folks that run just to run, for sport or for pleasure. And I really, really don't get that. I mean, you get up before dawn to run. If you feel so inclined to do this, at least stop by Shipley's and grab me a donut on your way home. Cherry-filled or cream-filled are my favorites. Oh, and one last little thing. The fat kid in me doesn't like to run. So if you ever see me running, you don't have time to ask questions. You don't think, you don't act, just promise to keep up. Something serious is fitting to happen, and we got to go. Earlier in Genesis, we would read about Isaac and Rebekah and their twins. Before these twins were born, God told them that the elder would serve the younger, the absolute beginning of a dysfunctional family in their time. Esau was born first, but Jacob was reaching out and grabbed the elder's ankle as they were born, foreshadowing events to come. Now Esau was the favorite of Isaac, and Jacob was the favorite of Rebekah. More dysfunction. The pinnacle of events occurred when Jacob tricks Esau into giving him his birthright. Now, as you can figure this out or imagine, once Esau saw this, he wasn't very happy. Jacob began to fear for his life, so he ran. Jacob left Beersheba, we read, and headed towards Haran. That's probably like going from Galveston to Hitchcock, the truth being known. He was going to a place that he would discover that he is vulnerable, but he's open in this place to seeing God in new ways. Life takes each of us to that certain somewhere, that in-between space for all of us. This may not be a geographical place as much as it is a spiritual place. Now, searching for God was not the purpose of Jacob's running. Remember, he was running for his life. But in this run, he unexpectedly encounters God. And that's what I pray for each of us. That in our daily running, in our running to get away, our running towards something, that God just shows up. It gets to be nighttime. And Jacob finds himself in a place of darkness and unknown. He may have a flint with some fire. He may not. It's a place of emptiness, but it's filled with mystery. A place where he can no longer physically see, but it's a place where God dreams will lead the way. The place is hard, it's desolate, it's full of stones, but Jacob is going to discover this to be a place of grace. It's dark, so all he can do is stop and attempt to rest for the night. He's reached a point of surrender, but not yet a place of giving up. We learn from this that we are able to stop running from our past, to stop running from our life, and honestly, for some folks, we can stop running from God. The darkness teaches us that we're not in control of our destiny. We're not in control of our life. We are forced in darkness to see and hear with new ears. We're forced into a vertical relationship. This is the crossroad between heaven and earth, between our house and the house of God. Now, I don't know how he does this. I couldn't. But Jacob somehow goes to sleep in this environment. And he begins to dream. He sees a ladder that goes all the way up to heaven. Angels are descending and ascending down the ladder. And at the top of this ladder was the voice of God. This is God telling us that even though the ladder shows us that he is in heaven, he is trying to connect with us here on earth. This ladder is the connection between humanity and divinity. It's the two-way bridge between heaven and earth. The life that we keep living on the run keeps us on the horizontal. It keeps us limited to this universe, to this time and space. Too often in our running, we miss the spiritual, the transcendent aspect of life, that vertical relationship that we need. Jacob is soon going to learn, as will we, that you can run, but you can never hide. We learn here also that God is faithful to his people, regardless of our place in life, regardless of our sin, regardless of our running. He is faithful. He is true. He keeps his promises. The voice that Jacob hears from top of that ladder is the renewal of the covenant between God and Abraham and Isaac. The promise of the Messiah is implicit. He says, "For in thy seed shall all families of the earth be blessed." God's offering Jacob the same covenant he gave to Abraham and to Isaac. Because Jacob, even though he was the grandson of Abraham, that wasn't enough. Just being related wasn't enough. He had to himself have a relationship with God. For us, just being a family of Christians isn't enough. Going to church isn't enough. We too have to have that relationship with God. Again, Jacob is running from not one relationship, but two strained relationships. We never realize that we end up running from the one relationship that heals all others, and that's our relationship with God. The promise, this relationship, the one with God, reaches across millennia to bring all of us to Christ, to a truth that is as marvelous today as it was when Jacob ran. Jacob awakens and says, "Surely the Lord is in this place. I just didn't know it." I mean, what a statement to make. I suggest that we, as a church, are in that same state today. God is here. He's present in our lives, and we just sometimes don't know it. So Jacob takes a stone he was sleeping on, pours oil on it, calls it Bethel, and says, "If God brings me back here, I'll give him thanks, and I'll always remember this place." Why a stone? Why this place? That was the place that Jacob encountered God. We notice from our reading he didn't build an altar. And I say the reason he didn't was he initially wasn't sold on this whole God and ladder thing. It's kind of like us, you know. We want to do just enough to punch our ticket on the bus to heaven, but we don't want to fully buy in, so we don't have to give up stuff here on earth that we kind of like doing in the places we like to hang out. Jacob eventually comes around, but not till much later. We read in Genesis 32 that the Lord has to get his attention in a much greater fashion than just a simple dream. We see in that chapter that Jacob is wrestling with a man until daybreak. Jacob discovers that this man that he finally defeats was God. He has battled God. And now he's going to be known as Israel. That's his name changed, because he met God face to face and he prevailed. How often in our life does God give us dreams, or does God give us a glimpse of the road and the dangers ahead? But sometimes you just got to knock the breath out of us for us to understand and to see it. If only we would pay better attention to the signs. Once this all happened to Jacob, he was a different human being. Before these events, Jacob only knew God through story. Now he knows God through personal experience. Human nature struggles with the idea of a Savior and Lord. People are accustomed to forging their own way, to overcoming obstacles by their wit, by their talent, by their perseverance. Trusting in God and patiently waiting in faith is somewhat foreign to natural experience. It's only when we put our trust in Jesus, when we encounter him one-on-one, is when that space becomes sacred to us. This church building on the corner of Jack Johnson and M&A is a place where we meet, and it's sacred to us. But we must not limit ourselves to wooden structures in places we can meet God. In your running in life, I'm sure you've met God in other places. Places where heaven and earth may intersect for you. For some it may be music. For some it may be art. Some it could be reading. Some folks it could be running. Get it? But it could be. It's in those sacred spaces that we encounter the risen Lord in our life. Now, we don't run in an ideal world, and we're faced with decisions to which there's no clear answer. We're faced with dark places full of mystery. Some decisions we make will be right. And you can ask my wife, many of my decisions are wrong. Some will never know if the answer was right or wrong, but we still have to make a decision. During those times, we must recall God's covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and then recall God's covenant to us through Jesus. This gives us the comfort of knowing that when God promises something, he never backs out. In this dream, God was reminding Jacob of that very thing. We must continue to run to God in order to escape our darkness, and we should rest our head on the promises of God. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. Jacob's ladder appears at every moment in our life, even when we are running. They appear not physically, but in our hearts. Obviously, humankind is incapable of building a ladder to heaven. Only God can provide this ladder to him. To anchor the ladder to earth, to make heaven accessible to us, God sent Jesus, born of a woman. He took upon himself the form of a servant and became obedient to death on the cross. He shed his blood for our redemption. No human-made ladder could reach far enough. The builders of the Tower of Babel tried, but to no avail. They, like many others, attempt to reach heaven by works and by works alone. Jesus didn't come to join heaven to earth. He came to separate heaven from earth. Those that attempt to find their way through their own works, their own ladders, find that path impassable. The miracle is not that God shows up and that we have an encounter with him. That happens every day, whether we see it or not. Just look around, the birds of the air, the water, the wind. The miracle comes as the ladder of God is revealed in the lives of a fugitive, or maybe an immigrant, or in the lives of the homeless or the oppressed, or in those dark places in our own lives where the sun has long since set, or maybe in the in-between places in our lives, or in places that we least expect. If you're seeking relief from these or any other issues, you've come to the end of your search. You come to Jesus, come to the Father. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I didn't know it. What part of your life is on the run? What are you searching for? What are you running from? My friends, it's time to stop running. Find your own dark place and trust in that place. No matter where our running in life takes us, God's ladder is accessible to us day into night. We just have to be willing to make the climb. This ladder is Jesus, and it's a part of each one of us. Jesus is our connection between heaven and earth. Through Jacob's dream, God reveals his love and his life, his connection to all of us. We can see that God has given a path to him, a path to everlasting life beyond this earth. This ladder shows Jesus as our way to heaven. It's time for each one of us to wake up, to see that our dream has come to life. Surely the Lord is in this place. And brothers and sisters, now we know it.